You say yes before you have even finished thinking about whether you want to. You rearrange your plans, your feelings, your words, all to make sure no one is left disappointed. And then, somewhere in the quiet afterwards, you feel it. That hollow, tired feeling of having handed yourself over again. Not because anyone forced you, but because the alternative, the possibility of someone being upset with you, felt genuinely unbearable. This is not a small thing. And it is not a character flaw. It is a pattern with deep roots, and understanding those roots is the first step towards something better. Let us begin with what is actually happening. When a person consistently abandons their own needs, preferences, and honest responses in order to manage how others feel, that is not simply being kind or considerate. Kindness is a choice made from a place of genuine care. What we are describing here is something different. It is a compulsion, a near-automatic response to the perceived threat of disapproval. The body and mind have learned, somewhere along the way, that conflict is dangerous, that disappointment in others is a signal of threat, and that the safest thing to do is to make yourself agreeable, easy, and small. Psychologists sometimes describe one version of this as a fawning response, where some people respond to threat by fighting, fleeing, or freezing. Others learn to appease. They become extraordinarily attuned to the emotional states of those around them. They read the room before they have even entered it. They adjust their tone, their opinions, their very presence, all to keep the atmosphere safe. This is not weakness. In many cases, it was once a genuinely intelligent adaptation. The question is whether it is still serving you now. For many people, this pattern began in early life. When a child grows up in an environment where love or safety felt conditional, where approval had to be earned, where expressing a need led to tension, or where the emotional climate of the home depended on keeping a particular person calm, that child learns something very specific. They learn that their inner world is less important than the outer atmosphere. They learn to monitor, to manage, to preempt. And because children are remarkably good at learning what keeps them safe, they become very skilled at it. The tragedy is that the skill outlives the original situation. You grow up, the environment changes, but the nervous system does not automatically receive that memo. It keeps running the old program. Keep everyone comfortable, and you will be safe. Disappoint someone, and something bad will happen. This is one reason why boundary guilt feels so physical. When you finally say no to something, or express a need that inconveniences someone, or allow yourself to disagree, the discomfort is not just emotional. It can feel like a kind of alarm going off in the body, a tightness in the chest, a wave of anxiety, an urgent need to go back and smooth things over, to apologize, to undo the boundary you just set. That alarm is old. It was calibrated for a different time. But it is very loud. There is a philosophical dimension to this worth sitting with. Several thinkers across history have observed that human beings have a profound need not just to belong, but to be seen as good, to be valued by the people around them. This is not vanity, it is deeply human. The desire for approval is woven into the fabric of social life. The difficulty arises when that desire becomes so dominant that it begins to override everything else. Your honesty, your preferences, your sense of self. When approval seeking becomes the organizing principle of a life, something quietly corrosive begins to happen. You start to lose track of what you actually think, feel, and want. Not because those things disappear, but because you have spent so long filtering them through the question of how they will land with others. Over time, the authentic signal gets harder to hear beneath all that noise. Some people describe reaching a point where they genuinely do not know what they want, because they have spent years only ever asking what others want from them. This is what self-abandonment really means. It is not a dramatic single event. It is a slow, incremental process of editing yourself down, of choosing the version of you that causes the least friction again and again, until that edited version starts to feel like the only version there is. And here is something important. The people around a chronic people pleaser often do not realize what is happening. They may simply experience this person as easy, agreeable, and low maintenance. They may not know that every easy yes came at a cost. They may not see the resentment that quietly builds when someone gives and gives without ever being asked what they need. The relationship can look harmonious on the surface, while something underneath is slowly fraying. This is also why people pleasers are sometimes blindsided by their own anger. It surfaces in unexpected moments: disproportionate frustration over something small, a sudden withdrawal, a feeling of being utterly exhausted by people they genuinely love. That is not a character flaw either. That is the accumulated weight of unspoken needs finally pressing against the walls. So what does a different way forward look like? It begins, perhaps, not with grand gestures of boundary setting, but with something quieter. It begins with noticing the moment before you automatically say yes, that brief window where your actual response exists before the habitual one takes over. You do not have to act on it immediately. You simply have to notice it is there. That noticing is not nothing. It is the beginning of a different relationship with yourself. It also helps to gently challenge the story that disappointing someone is catastrophic. In most cases, when you say no, or express a genuine feeling, or ask for something you need, the other person adjusts. They may be momentarily surprised. They may even be briefly frustrated. But the relationship does not collapse. The world does not end. And often, the honesty actually deepens the connection rather than damaging it. People tend to trust those who are real with them more than those who are endlessly accommodating. There is also something worth considering about what you are modeling for yourself. Every time you override your own needs to manage someone else's feelings, you send yourself a message. The message is, your feelings matter less. Your needs are an inconvenience. Your comfort is negotiable. Over time, you begin to believe it. And that belief shapes everything. How you move through the world, what you feel entitled to ask for, how much space you allow yourself to take up. You were not born believing that. It was learned. And what is learned can, with patience and care, be unlearned. This does not mean becoming indifferent to others. The capacity to care about how your actions affect the people around you is genuinely valuable. The goal is not to stop caring. The goal is to care about yourself with the same consistency and tenderness that you extend to everyone else, to include yourself in the circle of people whose feelings deserve consideration. One useful frame is this: you can be kind and honest at the same time. You can care about someone and still say no. You can want a relationship to go well and still bring your real self to it. These things are not opposites. In fact, the relationships that tend to be most sustaining are the ones where both people feel safe enough to be genuine. Where the yes means yes because it was freely chosen, not because the alternative felt too frightening. The version of you that has needs, preferences, limits, and honest feelings is not the difficult version. It is the real one. And the real one deserves to be here. If this video has touched something in you, take a moment with it. You do not have to solve everything today. Just stay with the question a little longer than you usually allow yourself to. If you found something useful here, Inside the Labyrinth has more explorations like this one waiting for you. You might also want to look at our video on why we fear being truly known. It sits right alongside what we have been talking about today. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.